Alright, hello guys, my name is Saida and I'm here with JRO Tools again to make a video on modeling and UVing a microwave. This is just a practice exercise while also being a little bit more informative about the modeling techniques used and the process we're going to take to unwrap this. If we take our cube from the very start, I know I'm kind of fiddling with it right now, but if we go over to our UV editing tab and I select all the faces on the right side with A, you can see that it's unwrapped it in a pretty obvious way that might be a little bit more predictable. As you click on each face, you see kind of where they're represented. Right? If I shift click twice, it sets it to the active face. That's why it lights up in a different color. Right? You can kind of see that represented there. Okay. What I want to do is not UV unwrap and paint these in any fancy way. We're actually going to do a more traditional technique, which is quite fun. I figured we would do an air conditioner or a microwave of some kind. And I like this one right here. And we might also get like an interior shot of one of them to do something with. I quite like this one right here too. I'm going to save this image and we'll probably use this for the back of the microwave. That panel there looks quite interesting. Okay, now that I'm in Blender, I want to go to my UV editing tab and I'm just going to drag that image I downloaded. You can drag it from your downloads folder. I'm just going to drop it in here. Essentially, it's loading it into the background of this UV editor, which is not attaching it to our object in any way, but it lets me preview the UVs on there for a sec. And it also loads it up so that if I go to my shading editor, if I create an image texture, I can just go in here and grab it. You can also drag and drop the image straight into here if you have Node Wrangler on. That works too. But it works either way. It doesn't really make too much difference. Plugging that into base color, you won't see anything change yet, but if we go to one of the render views or material preview mode, you kind of see it starts to do something. UV editing, we can kind of, if we go to that mode up here at the top, we can kind of make sense of what's going on here. As I scale this up and I move this around, let's look at the quarter view here. I'm going to hit Alt, Shift, and Z at the same time, which is going to hide our overlays. There's just two circles at the top right over there. And I'm also going to go into Material Preview so I can really see what's going on. As I move this around, you can kind of see it sliding around. It might not make the most sense, but maybe if I put it right here, it'll make some sense. Yeah, it's kind of rotated at a strange angle there. Let me kind of upright it a little bit, right about there. All right, so now you can see that the panel where the screen is, it kind of bleeds into the two sections, right? It's coming around the sides there and the right side. It might not make as much sense as the left side does. You can see that it's got this part here. The right side has like a part of the door. It actually wraps around. So you have to think of our image as being tiled indefinitely because that's what we have it set to right now. Probably not going to use that. We're gonna do a couple fancy things to make this work. For now, though, let's define what's going to be our front face. I'm going to say that this guy is our front face. Selecting the face, I'm just going to put it somewhere in the middle. I'm not too worried about keeping everything on one texture either. I liked the one image we have from before, so I'm actually going to, let's try this. With the same face selected, yeah, I think this is them. I'm going to go to the UV editing tab, or sorry, the material tab over here. I'm going to create a new material and assign it. Just hit new there. Once it's assigned, because it takes whatever face you have selected when you hit that button, it assigns that face to this material. I'm going to take the other image I loaded up, which is, let's throw them on there. Go to my UV editing tab. Clicking on different faces, it should update this. Let's see if we can get it to. Doesn't want to, but in this drop down I can get it to switch. Usually it does. I think it's because I dropped the image there at the start, but it should be okay. Alright, selecting the face I have on the left side, you can see that it's kind of squished. You see what I'm going for here. I'm going to select everything on the right side though, just to kind of get this a little bit more into a microwavy shape and scale it up. I am in edit mode. Doing this in object mode could be a little bit detrimental. Not like the end of the world, but you'll have to apply your scale or it's going to cause some issues after. Applying scales with Control A. Essentially, if I was to add a bevel to this mesh, in our modifier section, you can see how this is at a 45-degree angle. If I scale it in edit mode, it does not respect that. So if I apply our scale with Control A, apply scale, it fixes that. So just be aware that if you're manipulating your object in object mode, make sure to apply your scale. Now, this is one case where that would be okay. I should also mention this. If I was to rotate my object like this and apply my rotation, that could be detrimental as well on its own right. So maybe not always applying that is a good thing. Because if I go GZ, it's going to move, let's go GZ, yeah, it moves it up on this axis. But if I tap it twice, it's going to move it up on its local axes because your object always keeps track of its transforms that you're applying to it. Where are we? Item. If I go into object mode and I click on them, you can see that we have rotation here. And I can always set this back to like 0. I'm going to do it by hand so you can kind of see as it moves, right? It keeps track of that. But the second that you apply that, that's forgotten. So if I hit GZZ, it doesn't know which way is up. So I'm going to undo right before I applied that. Right, so I can reset that back. It's good. Let's just try to keep a rule of thumb of applying your scale for now. It's kind of why these are bunched up. Sometimes you do want to apply your rotation, but you have to really understand why you're applying it before you really apply it. You shouldn't be applying it haphazardly. All right, continuing forward, I know I jumped around there. I'm going to grab the front face of our object like I mentioned before. And I'm just going to take on the left side here with it selected. I'm just going to try to get it so that I know that it's covering everything I want it to. This microwave is broken into 2 pieces, so I'm actually going to kind of cut our mesh to fit that in a sec. Let me just kind of eyeball it down until it roughly fits the shape of our microwave's front panel here. Yeah, it's got a nice bezel to it, so I'm going to try to encompass that as well. That's quite fun. Just enough that it covers it all. I know it's like slightly deformed and rotated, but that's more than fine. We're correcting it with our UVs, not our mesh, so that should be okay. Even if it was with our mesh and we were slightly deforming it, it would just add that little bit more character. Not that we couldn't straighten it out. It's okay to flatten that out if you want absolute perfection, but nothing's perfectly flat. Give it a little bit of curvature and we should be fine if you had to. All right, now that's fine. That is our front view of our microwave. Our bevel's on, by the way. That's why it's kind of cutting it out. I'm going to tighten up that bevel so that it just fits within that boundary that I'm looking for, right about there. And lower, I'm going to raise the segments like 3. All right, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's fun. I don't know, because it's stretching our image around the back. I might actually do a bevel by hand because this image is bleeding into it and is trying to figure out which part to share and which part not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control-Alt-Click this edge right here, which is going to grab every single edge parallel to it on all the sides, which is quite cool. Similar to a face select, but without the front and back faces, right? I'm going to go to the front view again, and I'm going to bevel this one more time. Control-B. As soon as I get to that quarter here where I'm touching the peak, I'm going to scroll my mouse and just kind of push it a little bit farther. I'm just trying to get enough cuts on there when I scroll my mouse to add more and less. Just until it gets to the right spot where it feels about right. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but the closer it is, the better. So we're going to get away with a lot here. Especially since it's a metallic surface, we'll have a lot of room for playing around with this. All right. One thing I want to do is I'm going to add a cut. I'm hitting Control-R and I'm hovering over one of the edges. I'll go to solid view so it makes it a little easier to see. I'm going to hover over this edge right here. It's going to cut through. I'm going to slide it over here, right? Maybe we'll do it a little bit differently. Let's try to make it a bit easier to follow. I'm doing Control-R. I'll add one cut here, and it sticks to my mouse, and then I'm going to right-click after. What that's going to do is it's going to center it on whatever face I clicked on. So I hover over to the edge, it's yellow. I click. It follows my mouse. I right-click, it centers. The reason I'm doing this is so that when I click on this vertex right here of the new piece we created, I can shift-click up here, and I can hit J. The reason it didn't cut through on its own is because we have n-gons. An n-gon is a face that has more than 4 vertices, right? Yeah, and this is a big n-gon. It's because I beveled these corners without consideration for that. It's okay to have an n-gon in Blender if your destination is Blender, but it's good to be aware of how to fix it, right? We're going to leave those alone as n-gons, and I'm just going to do the same thing, grabbing the 2 vertices and hitting J to join on the other side as well. I'm going to alt-click on that edge. It's going to grab all the way around. I'm going to go back into our view over here, and I can't, let's go over to material preview so you can see it better. I can't just grab it because that would really mess things up. You could reproject it if you wanted to, but I'm just going to double tap G. Double tap G is edge slide. Edge sliding on its own, if you check this, it has something called correct UVs, and it'll automatically, if that's checked, let you manipulate that. One more trick with that, by the way, if I want to be even more crazy, if I don't double tap G, I triple tap it, right? I can now grab and move things around. Essentially, I'm moving with the same kind of methodology there. It's also keeping the UVs also like updated and constrained, I guess. Now that's not taking note of anywhere. It's actually kind of a fluke that I figured that out, and I don't know how common it is that people use this, but it's very powerful when you're trying to adjust the model ever so slightly to correct for a UV. So, all right. Now that we have this kind of created, it's nothing too crazy. I think that works out for us. We have this edge here, though. I think I might actually use this for something else, too. I'm going to hit Control-R, and I'm going to scroll up one so I have cut right in the middle and 2 on the sides. I'm just sliding it over so I get that right side reinforced right there. You see that edge right here? So when it's going over here, so that's going to create this boundary here because we're going to have this inset into a nice like panel. And the left side, I'm going to GG and slide this one over as well until that one quite aligns just about over here. And that gets this guy into its little boundary, which is quite nice. I'm just going to slide him over until he fits about right. I don't know if I want to go under the edge or over the edge, so I might just go a little bit into the white area. I think that'll be fine. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the sides, but on this side as well. The reason I have to cut through and I can't just manipulate this is if I start grabbing this, it's going to deform in weird ways on the n-gon. So I need to make it cut all the way through. So I'm going to add another cut right here, right click. and one on this side and right click. I'm going to click in here, click there, J, these two, just select it with a box and J. And then this guy, do we have it on the other side? We do. I hit J across all those faces. It's just going to be able to figure that one out. I should have done it on the front too, just didn't realize it. So alt clicking on that edge, it should grab everything, right, all the way through. And I'm going to bevel it, scroll down so I only have one. I don't have that middle edge, it's just the two. I'm going to scroll until it's roughly in the right spot. It doesn't have to be perfect, because I can always make adjustments. Come back to the front view, I'm going to double tap G. Just slide it until I'm roughly somewhere on the line. It doesn't have to be 100% good on that. That's perfect for me. Should be perfect for you too. Good. Okay. How are you? You need to work. Let's get them right aligned, and that should be good. Okay. Now we have this front door, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to just zoom in real close here so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to extrude that with the E key. I'm just going to push that in a little bit, somewhere around here. And then I'm gonna add another n-gon here. I'm gonna take this inner vertice, I'm gonna bevel it with Control B until it feels about right, somewhere around there. I'm just gonna scroll up. I'm gonna probably reproject this because now that I think about it, it was probably a mistake to do all the projection too early. But it's also acting like a guideline, so maybe it's not a mistake. I think I'm definitely correct. I'm the right guy here. Okay. Now this part here is also sunken in. Now that I think about it, let's do them both at the same time. It'll save us a little bit. I'm gonna undo a little bit. I select both the faces and I'm just going to extrude them both inward, just like that. I can't do the Control Alt click because it's going to grab these vertices. I guess you could if you deselect them like this. I'm holding Control and dragging a box to deselect, right? Now I only got those vertices on the corners I actually want to manipulate. Going back to the top left corner here, I'm going to bevel it. It's going to deform our UVs. Somewhere around there. Maybe a bit more. I'm not sure how I feel about that. We'll see. Okay. I do like the bevel though. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. That's fine for me. Okay. I'm going to alt click on this upper edge though. I want this to go all the way around. I'm going to alt shift click on all these edges as it goes around. Let's see if we can get it all. If it's not selecting, there's actually an easier way to do this. Let's do it like this. I'm going to go into face select mode and I'm going to, instead of having to alt click and try to shift click and go all the way around the mesh, I'm actually going to go to face select and alt click on this edge in between, and it's going to find the loop of quads going through instead of trying to figure out the n-gon situation. With that selected, I'm going to go to select, loops, boundary loop, and it's going to grab the inner one and the outer one. So when I bevel, you can see them kind of get smooth here. I'm going to get a pretty decent bevel. I don't want to have any issues with it, and I think that's fine because we're not going too crazy with it. It's just like a prop. All right, now that that's beveled, I'm going to go back to the front view here. I'm going to select everything, and I'm just going to go to UV, project from view, and I think that'll be okay. You can do bounds if you want to. I think project from view works a little bit better in this case. And this is our mesh, right? It should be. I didn't have everything selected. I'm going to try that one more time. UV, project from view. Oh, that seems a little off. Okay. I might have to apply our scale. I'm gonna do that real quick. Oh yeah, that is correct. It's just a little bit deformed. It can be a little deceiving, I guess, because our image is kind of a stretch. Let's do project from view bounds. It's going to keep it square. I'm just going to pull it around until it fits the bottom and the top edge. That's what I'm looking for. I'm going to grab this guy right here. I'm not really sure what's going on right here. That's a bit strange. I guess that's our inner area segment where our bevel is. Yeah, it's right about there. What are you? Right here. That shouldn't have happened. This should have been perfectly aligned on top of that guy. Huh. Alright, so I'm going to take the front of this face. I'm going to go into X-ray mode, and I'm going to grab all these vertices right here. I just want the front faces. I'm going to look at the front view right here. I'm going to go UV, project from view bounds. Select everything. And I'm just going to grab the top part of this with the first option up here selected, which is like the vertice select. You can use one on your keyboard. It should work. And I'm just going to slide these around. I'm just sliding on the y-axis right now. I'm G and then using my mouse wheel and clicking and dragging the direction I want it to go. You can kind of see that little white line when you hold your mouse wheel down while grabbing something, and it's like, which way do I want to pull it? I want it up and down, so I'm going to slide it up or down. I'm going to slide it right about there. I just want a little bit of the metal bleeding into it. I think that's kind of cool. Just making sure it's good on both sides. One thing you can do is Control-Shift-S and it lets you shear it. And if I do it on the Y-axis, I can kind of shear the entire thing in an interesting way. It's like rotating, but you don't deform it like this. Instead, it goes like this. It's like infinitely in one direction. I want to shear it ever so slightly on this axis. So when I slide it, I get a little bit more height on the right side, which is going to let me encompass that side too. Right? Pretty cool. All right, I'm going to select just these vertices right here. I'm just going to slide them a bit to the left. Don't have to be too perfect about this. It's never something someone's going to notice. But yeah, it's worth it depends. If you want to take your time and be like a pro about it, you can. But if you can spit out a model that is really high quality a lot quicker, it's probably most of the time better to just speed through this segment here. Let me just slightly adjust. I'm grabbing these vertices in between so I get the pull there, because this guy's going to be annoying. I'm just going to G and pull him on the Y a little bit lower. I'm just going to grab these bundle right here because I want this edge to be a little bit better aligned, and just pull them a little bit over. Oh, I got to grab the one underneath. I don't want to stretch this one vertice here. It's such a small distance, I should be okay to slightly have that deformed, and yes I am. It looks just fine. And now we got to address this guy up top. Same situation. I'm going to do it with this guy though. I don't have to do them all at once. It's very easy to see the texture and correct it after. So I'm just going to do this part right here first. I think I want to err on the side of caution. I don't want too much of the white edge bleeding into this because I think it'll look a little silly. But we'll see how it goes. Alright, the other side now. Needs some work. Same situation. Just going to grab it, move it up on the Y-axis, and slide it around till it fits. And down here. Ooh, that guy's way off. So around there. All of these guys. Let's grab this one and this. I can't do the bottom one. I'm going to have to just do these few. Just because this guy's not going to quite... I didn't want him to come down at all. Alright, looking around our mesh here. Shift-Alt-Z to go into X-ray. I'm just pivoting around. My shortcut tool turned off there, but it should be okay. I haven't been doing anything too crazy. And then we got it. We have our block out of this. All right, so I'm not afraid of using two different textures here, like I said earlier. So I'm gonna go like this. I wanna make sure that these guys are all on their own texture. So I'm gonna grab these vertices here, and I'm gonna make sure, I think this is it. Let's just double check. I'm just gonna hit assign on there. These guys are using something completely different. If I unplug it, it doesn't affect our other guy. All right, for one thing I want to do is I'm going to get out of X-ray. I'm going to grab all the front faces right here, and just to make sure they didn't grab anything on the side, I just dragged the box here, by the way. If something was slightly skewed to the side, though, you have to be careful. Even if it's this small, you end up with a sidewall, so it doesn't always work. If you were to grab just the middle parts, though, you can hit Control+ on your numpad to expand, like before, which is quite cool. Once you have that, though, I'm just going to go to this front view right here, and I'm just going to project from view. I'll do bounds. It should be fine. I'm going to plug this guy back in. And I want this to have that vent on there, just in case I have it backwards. It's obviously the inside of the microwave, but I don't think many people know what an inside of a microwave looks like. I don't even know. Or the back of a microwave looks like. I hope you know what the inside of a microwave looks like. Okay. Once that's all aligned, this should be pretty cool. Nothing too crazy. Something like that. I think that'll be okay. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. It's like a little edge indentation. It feels nice. It looks like this would be a microwave back. All right, for this other segment right here, though, I'm actually going to scale it down to 0, and I'm going to put it right somewhere on there. Just essentially, it's now sampling 1 pixel in 1 color. Put it on a black dot, it's going to be all dark. I'm just going to put it somewhere semi-bright, because I could make this its own material too, or I can make it so that it's masked out, but I don't want to overcomplicate things, so I'm just going to leave it on the white spot, and then I'm going to raise the metallic level of this material so it makes things very metallic. I'm going to shade this auto smooth now, because this edge right here is driving me nuts. I have to make sure it's selected though, or it won't update because it thinks I have something else selected. And that is too bright. So what I'm going to do, I'm thinking at least, is why don't we go ahead and let's think about this. It's kind of dark all the way around. Yeah, let's go like this. I'm going to Shift A. I'm going to add I'm thinking a color ramp, because that would make it very easy to control. Oops, that's a clamp. Shift A, search, color ramp. I'm going to drop it on top. Shift A, search, color ramp. Drop it on top. It's the same thing, but it turns it black and white, which could be a little silly. I'll lower my roughness. I don't think there's any color on there anyways. Oh, that is not what we want. That could be a problematic part. I'm going to take the white value. I'm just going to make this darker. That'll overall work anyways. Instead of sliding it. It's got like a slightly orange or pinkish reddish reflection, warm reflection. So I'm just trying to hit that tone. Nothing too crazy. And I think it's a bit lighter than that actually. It's got like this brushed metal feel. We could try to recreate that, which is not too crazy. Maybe I'll do a noise texture and we'll play around with that. If I plug this into our base color, right? And let's say I just unplug this for a sec, because we will use that. But I'm also going to click on our noise texture here. I'm going to hit Control T. You see that the hotkeys are popping up in the top right, which can help you kind of follow along. And I'm going to play with our scaling here, right? And I'm just going to get that really stretched. I'll take the scale of our texture on this side too and just kind of get it stretched out there. I don't like that this feels like a grid pattern that you're kind of seeing form. It's not supposed to, but we're going to see if we can correct that. It's getting there. Zero is too little, so I'm going to have something in there. Let me see it like this. If I raise our detail, maybe we can get it to go away. If I go roughness and detail. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit of distortion. Actually, distortion works very well. I'll add a lot of distortion. All right, I'm going to raise that dark value if I can. Maybe bring the white value in a little closer, which is going to help mask off those little grainy scratches, which is kind of helping us match that up. It's starting to feel like I maybe made it too stretchy, because those feel like a little bit more clumped together. I'm eyeballing this, by the way. That's a pretty good matchup, I would say. I'm just going to keep playing with our scale until it feels about right. Maybe less distortion. How's that feeling? It doesn't. I'm not too fan. I'm not sure. I'm kind of making it worse the farther I go. Maybe make the darkness a little lighter and less masking it off. It's something to fiddle with though. A color ramp acts like a levels value inside of Photoshop, except you can actually color each segment of the dark spots. If I was to take this spot right here and make this red, you'll see that whatever was toned at this brightness level is now red, right? And you can use this to mask off very specific regions and make them very complex materials out of nothing. You can see how we can use this to make like a wood grain texture. It's quite fun. I do encourage you to kind of play around with that whenever you get a chance. All right, from here on out, I'm going to continue blocking this out. I'm not sure we're in the right texture. We got to go one more deeper. I'm just going to name this material front and the other one side plus back, just so I can keep track of them. And the front material, I also want this one to be quite metallic, so I'm just going to crank it all the way to 1. I feel like 1 is just, I feel like things are either metallic or not metallic. There's an in between, but it's rare to see that blend in Blender look too great. So I'm just going to keep it metallic for now. I'm going to lower that roughness so it has some kind of glare to it. Not that much glare. Ooh. I kind of like that. Let's do the same on this side. How much glare can we get away with before it looks silly? Ooh, that's fun. That is fun. Okay. We'll also make this kind of cool too. We're going to play around with that.